Hey guys, what's going on? Today's video, we're going to talk a bit about how competitive I think Season 1 TBC Gladiator will be, which is, I think it's the Infernal Gladiator, that's the season. I'm pretty sure the mount will be the same as it was before, but going to do a bit of predictions, a bit of thinking about, if you're really targeting to go super hard in TBC, what to expect, some differences in that space as well between retail and classic. So the first thing you want to note is obviously you're in teams, right? So you're not in the same format you are now where you can pretty much play individually and get rating in one team, then swap, play with different people, get rating there, move across and across. So what I think tends to happen there is the really really intense, players who play a lot of arena tend to just make a lot of different teams. Like they will, do a push, swap teams, do a push, swap teams. Like if you look at any of Recful or all these old live streams and like Kata, I think Kata was the last time they had teams. Wrath, he was in different teams a lot. He was swapping teams. Because realistically, until the end of the season, you don't really have to care about pushing rank one necessarily, unless you get really lucky and just get an insane rating. But what tends to happen with teams, which is a bit different, is you will also be trying to target getting those arena points, which is based on your team rating. So you still need to be in a team on reset, ideally as high as possible to get the most amount of arena points, I think. And then you might swap teams, make a new one, push. I think the big thing, sorry, what I was trying to get to was that a lot of, serious pro type of players will try and get a crazy good record in a team. That's kind of what I remember because that was the big flex, right? You get 99 to 1. I think Recfalls was like 94 to 3, which was really good. You're pushing ratings that have never been seen before, but it's so obvious that you can kind of look at your win rate. Whereas when you play on retail, I don't think that's so important. I noticed that kind of people stopped caring about that recently. Not recently, but ever since teams were removed, because it's less of a hey, my team's the best, but more, I might play with 15 different types of people, and we win a lot when we play Turbo. We lose a lot when we play Warrior Mage or something. So I think the big thing there. Okay, there's a weird ad. Can I like not have that in the middle of the screen? Okay, apparently I have this ad in the screen. But what I'm trying to get to is let's talk about the achievements. So obviously, rank one is similar. They added this in, which is top 0.1% of teams. So obviously, the thing that changes when you have teams again is that instead of it being like the top 250 people, which is about rank one on Horde at the moment, I think about top 250, 300 or something. You have you divide that by three, but sometimes not three. You might have five people in a team, but you could also have one person in a team who's just sitting a really really high rating, and because of that, the structure is a little bit different. Um, of who gets rank one. I think rank one back in the day was like one team in each bracket, and if I think you had equal points, you both got it. Someone can correct me on that. I can't quite remember. Uh, which makes it considerably more competitive because there could be like teams at like 3K with nobody in them except for one dude. The other big thing is the boosting is a bit harder, but then a little bit more prevalent from what I remember in terms of piloting. So boosting right now is super easy because you can just give me, 3 million gold on my server. We can play on any realm. Realistically, you can just faction swap, right? As well. Whereas you can't do that on TBC. So the majority of boosts were in TBC, Wrath, Kata were piloting, which a lot of people got banned for. Super, not good thing for the game. But honestly, if we're talking about the reality of it, looking at Classic at the moment, looking at the sort of player base, I wouldn't be surprised with a considerable amount of boosting happening in for those Gladiator teams because realistically, you can kind of push someone up and then bounce out. The other thing is you will have a whole bunch of meta chasing. I think meta is obviously really, really important in retail as well. People generally play meta classes, stuff like that. But I think you'll with less classes and sort of less variation, the fact that they're not going to be considerable huge patches that will nerf a class, at least right now, you won't see the same amount of I guess variance. So generally comms will sort of coalesce into one or two sorry, like 4 or 5 different comps. That's not saying that you can't play non-meta comps, and in a way, non-meta comps might be even stronger because everyone's just used to versing the same thing. So if you play something that people aren't used to, that could be really, really strong. Um, and also, I think in later seasons, it'll be. I don't know how much in first season, but I know in later seasons, PvE gear becomes a bit of an issue, especially with Glaive Rogues, Sunwell gear, all this kind of stuff, which makes it pretty difficult. The other thing is there is a gearing system. Is there any information on this site? I just pulled this up because I have this stuff here. But you have a point cap of 5,000. There's no decay, and you get epic gear. And I think you have roughly there's like 5 or 6 pieces. The Gladiator set, which you buy of arena points, and then you have sort of a blue set, which you buy of honor points. Pretty good stuff as well. So I think everyone will be trying to push your arena rating up to get the most points possible. And there is a startup fee for starting it, and you queue in a central area, which is a big thing. So honestly, I think the big thing is this part. Your team must have fought a minimum of 10 matches to be rewarded with arena points, and a player must have been at least in 30% of all your matches. So, which means that if you play 10 games, a player has to be in 3 of them to get rewards. So, when you have those 5-person teams, you do have to spend more time on that sense. You get less points in a 5v5 team because I'm not sure. I don't know why they put that there, but 5s is a pretty considerable bracket. And we're going to talk about the brackets first in a second. But before we do that, I kind of want to talk about how to situate 0.5% for Gladiator. I know some of you guys, might be pushing rank 1, but you can work that out yourself because I'm not in TBC. For Gladiator, top 0.5%. If you look at the cutoff right now, Sinful Gladiator on US is 28.77. Horde is 28.59. And I did a bit of a look on sort of, what about 2859 is. Hold on, I got to swap to this and then swap to Horde. I had a bit of a look-see to sort of kind of work out. Obviously, these are going to be, use it as a grain of salt if you played this season, what the type of competition might be. But this doesn't have the weird teaming system and all the stuff like that. So definitely not the standard, but just one thing to think about when you're like, hey, maybe I want to get Gladiator, I want to get rank 1, something like that. So about 2050 on Horde is rank 277, about 2850 CR. And then I think if we kind of switch the view here, that means that you're looking at, and this is sort of based off WOD data, where sort of rank 1, 0.1, you times it by 5-ish. I know the maths isn't 100% on that one, but I didn't really want to have to go work it out. You times it by 5-ish, and you kind of get what the rating will probably likely end up being, which is about 2583. So for Gladiator, obviously not end of the season, but it sort of feels like no one's playing anymore. So interesting, right? Gladiator is considerably lower than what it is on retail. Like on retail, you can get 2,400 and farm 50 wins. On TBC, you're going to be looking at trying to be in the top 1,500, noting that this number will probably be much larger because of participation. So obviously, when you have a bigger pool of teams, the more and more kind of leeway you have to get Gladiator. But I do think a lot of people, because of the rewards, right? You get a flying mount at, I think, the top speed, right? 320% or whatever. You get a flying mount. It looks really, really cool. It's unique. There's literally no other mount that looks like it in TBC. You have the title, rank 1 title, which is also really unique, super cool. I think there'll be a lot of people competing. There'll be a lot of people playing alts because alts are a bit easier to sort of gear and do all that kind of stuff. But if we kind of look further onto another season that happened, which is WOD season 3, we can sort of see the brackets here. So is there a way I can sort of see what Gladiator cutoff would have been? No. Maybe if I swap to EU. Hmm. I swear I saw this like before. I don't know how I lost it. I'm an idiot. Um. Yeah. Weird. I thought you kind of go through the archives and sort of find what each of the cutoffs were. But yeah, as you can see in different seasons, rank one changes a lot as well. So something to note if you are looking in there. Oh, cutoffs. That's probably it, right? Let's click cutoffs. Um, this only has this view, so it's whatever. It's not super useful. But another view you can look at is the current Shadowlands, which is kind of deflated. So I think it'll be much higher than this. But 70th percentile is about 1500. 90th percentile, which is Rival, is about 1748. I think from my experience, Rival is usually about 1800, 1750 to 1800. So that kind of lines up. Whereas Duelist was sort of, I think, 2.1k and above, and then Gladiator. Obviously, this isn't in old TBC. Like 2200 and old TBC would have got you Glad in a lot of seasons, but because of how competitive it is, I think it will follow this sort of distribution, similar to Shadowlands. So I think you're probably looking at like 2500, 2400 for TBC Gladiator, which is my prediction right now. It might be higher, it might be lower. I'm not sure exactly what the implications of the elo system are in TBC, so that's something to take note of. Oh, there we go. Found the historical data for one season, um, but it doesn't say the Gladiator title, does it? Oh, here we go. So Gladiator in Warlord Season 2, this is sort of when we still had the separate Gladiator title, was 1780 and rank 1 was 3k, and then in Season 1 you sort of see that 2758. So it's about 1600 people. Ultimately, you have a pool of about 320,000 people, anyone who played, and then Challenger is about 1577. So that sort of kind of aligns with what to expect there in that space. And if you're looking just to get some of these rewards, like these are cool too. You get the title. Um, you know, it's pretty cool. You have that for the whole next season, I think. You have some pretty cool gear as well, and you know, I think it's a pretty fun experience to kind of try and put that there. Other things to note is that there'll be 3 brackets where you can get Gladiator. So right now you can only get Gladiator through one bracket, which is threes, right? So you'll have the opportunity to get Gladiator in twos, threes, or fives. Fives obviously being probably easier because you have less people to rely on, but the amount of Gladiator titles offered in fives might be considerably lower. Whereas twos might have more Gladiator titles because it's easier to make a twos team play, so the pool's bigger, but it might be more like meta dependent. It might be more skill dependent because there's only 2 people in the team. Threes, I think, is the most competitive, esport wise. So you're going to be looking at probably trying to push threes. I think the big thing is a lot of the more casual players, like I guess in TBC, if I was 2500 in threes, I probably wouldn't try and push 20 Glad in twos. However, if you're sitting a rating in threes, let's say your rank one range 2000, whatever, 3k, whatever the rank one is, you might need to do twos to get your arena points. So that kind of makes it a bit confusing and a bit more difficult because then you have people that don't have an incentive to get Gladiator in twos, getting Gladiator in multiple brackets. The other thing is obviously ego, the flex, having Gladiator in fives, threes, twos, it looks really cool. So for a lot of high rated people who are bored, who are playing a lot of TBC, might be pushing all 3 brackets. So while this will increase the number of Gladiator titles available, I wouldn't look too closely into saying, okay, I'm just going to try and get it in fives. I would really try and push it in twos and threes and then play fives as well. You could get it from that too. Overall, I think the big thing here, and we're going to talk about this in future videos, I'm going to do a couple more videos on TBC, PvP, Arena, because a lot of you guys hadn't played when there was teams and all this kind of stuff. So the big thing we're going to talk about next video is talk about a bit more of the community. I'll share some of my stories on how that changes the I guess format that you find groups. So in TBC, you have really structured sort of everyone's in a realm, they're in a faction, everyone knows everyone, guilds become a thing again. You want to be in the good PvP guild so you can play with people, you network with people, all this kind of stuff. Whereas currently you can just hit up LFG, and chill out. So big thanks to everyone who's supporting the Patreon, YouTube, Discord, all this kind of stuff. We'll try and make way more videos in the future. I'm kind of excited to play. I've been enjoying playing retail. I've been enjoying playing Burning Crusade. So I think we're kind of on the up and up in terms of WoW content. Last few months, obviously, I think for most of you guys as well, pretty dire in terms of interest in the game. And we'll talk about that actually in the next video. So guys, hope you have an excellent week. Hope you're pumped for TBC. It's launching in a week. Are you playing it? What are you playing? Let me know. Take it easy, boys.